Good morning, friends. And those who are joining on YouTube today, this is just a demonstration about how our classes go. And the live chat is disabled. If you have any questions, we'll not be able to answer your questions. And again, this is just to demonstrate how our live classes go. That being said, we are in the middle of Linux fundamentals, and we are covering shell scripting. And today we will be seeing the development lifecycle of shell scripting. Okay, so let me confirm that people on Zoom can see my screen, and then we'll take it from there. So I will explain that, Jitendra, at a later point in time, or we'll ping you. The PPT is already uploaded, and we will share the details after the class. Okay, so that being said, I hope everyone can see my screen and also can hear me. Now let us move on to the example. We have already seen the basic constructs with respect to Linux shell scripting by going through hello world example. I have explained a bit on variables. We have seen what is functions and arguments. We have seen if condition, etc. We have to yet to see how to check if file exists or not, and also how to read input and processing using while loop. So to understand these things, let us go through an example. We will try to get count for each and every table, which is part of a list. So we'll create a file where there will be list of tables, and the example is to get count for each and every table by querying the database using something called scoop eval command. Okay. 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Just give me a moment. Okay. So first, let us see how the scoop eval command looks like. You don't need to worry too much about what scoop eval is. The purpose of this exercise is to see the development lifecycle of a shell program. So here I am connecting to the lab, and those who are part of live training already have access to the lab. And I'm going to demos Linux fundamentals just to make sure that I'm in the right directory in which I'll be creating the script. And the scoop eval command is like any other Linux command. We have installed scoop here, and it is kind of any Linux command. And also, before getting into this, yesterday someone have asked why we have covered the arguments quite extensively. Okay, just let me respond to that question first before we get into the development lifecycle of a shell program. So we have seen yesterday when we were exploring that using date as suffix to the file, and when we gave the date, it has taken space as delimiter and it created multiple files, something like this. If I give file 1, file 2, file 3, and if you see ls-ltr, 3 files are created, 3 empty files are created. So it is implemented the way I have explained yesterday. So if you actually look at the source code, they read all the arguments by using $8, and they iterate through those arguments and they create the files. So commands like touch can take variable number arguments as input, and we can process those arguments iterating through them, and then we can implement whatever functionality we want to using those arguments. So that is the purpose of understanding the special way of accessing the arguments. Okay, and in some cases we also have to come up with shell programs where it takes variable number of arguments and you have to iterate through the arguments. You have to filter out certain arguments. You have to implement control argument behavior as part of your applications, and all those things has to be taken care. And those can be done using this arguments notation. What is okay, sh minus x. So we will see that today, if we run into any issues, we will try to debug, and the way we will be debugging is using sh minus x. You have to be extremely careful when it comes to so Vasu, you have to be extremely careful when it comes to the syntax and those things. So it is not capital sh hyphen space x. It is sh hyphen x. You have to be extremely careful with the syntax. Okay, and if you type like this, obviously you will get into some generic errors and you will not be able to get the support properly. So you need to understand the significance of syntax, and you have to use the appropriate syntax whenever you do something. Okay, that being said, I will be explaining a bit about sh hyphen x at a later point in time. And then Yara, yes, you will not be seeing Linux fundamentals, and the directory is not there. So whatever code I will be developing today, I'll put it in GitHub, and I will update the material on our LMS, and you'll get access to this to it, and you can actually get it from there. So don't worry about whether you are able to access this or not. Okay. That being said, now let us actually get into actual shell program. So in this case, before getting into shell program, let us look at sample scoop eval command. So scoop eval takes something called connect. Don't worry if you do not understand the scoop command in detail. The purpose of today's exercise is not for you to understand the scoop eval command. Whatever command I am using here, we will be using it as template, and we'll be running queries using that template. So even if you could not understand the scoop eval completely, you are good to go. You don't need to worry too much about it. Okay, but it's a very simple command. You should be able to pick it up without much issues. So the purpose of scoop eval, it's part of Scoop, which is a big data technology, and the purpose of it is to connect to the database and run particular query in the database. Okay, so in this case, the way it will connect to database is by using JDBC. JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity. All experienced professionals should be aware of this. Inexperienced professionals might not be aware of it. Don't worry too much. Okay. So to connect to the database, you need to have a JDBC jar file, and you need to have something called JDBC URI, which will facilitate you to connect to the database. So in this case, it is JDBC MySQL : // and then ms.itversity.com, and then I want to access database called RetailDB. Okay, and this is the line break. So in case of you writing any shell command or piped script, if it is taking very long and if you want to make it readable by breaking into multiple lines, wherever you want to break, you just give // and / has to be the last character. If it is the last character, then you can line break. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. So as it is completely taking up the line, so let us have only scoop eval in this, and then backward slash, and hit enter. Then it will go to the next line and still accept the code which is related to the previous line. Okay, and after backward slash, you should not have any character. If you have any character, it will not be considered as line break for your command. So if you are developing a lengthy one-line script, instead of typing everything in one line, if you line break at regular intervals, it will be a bit more readable to you. So, and it is Linux feature. It is not scoop feature. It is Linux feature. Any Linux command or any Linux one-liner script or any shell script, you can use this notion to line break a long command into multiple lines. Okay. So now I can use this connect to the control argument of scoop eval, where we can actually pass the JDBC URL and then username. Username is retail underscore user and password. Password is ITversity. And finally, query. You can give a query here. Select count of 1 from orders. Okay, so this is a sample scoop eval command, which will connect to the database and get us the count. You can see there are 68,883 records. And if you see the output, it has given information like this, some log information, and then it have printed the output like this. Okay, we will, but when we actually try to query multiple tables, it should be a bit better formatted. We don't need this information. We should not get this information. We have to discard, and probably it might make sense if I can print orders with some delimiter and then count. That is a better readable, especially when we are querying multiple tables and then getting the output from those tables. Okay, so now let us first run this command itself as a shell script. Instead of coming up with the complete solution directly, I will go step by step. Okay, so first let me take this and let me say scoop eval.sh, and then I pasted this. We have to remove these characters. Okay, those characters are just when we line break to indicate it is a continuation of the previous line. It is not part of the syntax of the command. So we have to remove those things. Okay. So now it is a simple scoop command, as we can include any Linux based command and invoke it as a shell script. We will just get started with this and try to see if we can run it as a command, shell script rather than scoop eval command. We put the command in a script and we are executing it as a script. So I came out of it, and we have to either add execute permissions to this, or we have to say source scoop eval.sh. In this case, I'm adding execute permissions, scoop eval.sh, and then scoop eval.sh, and it is giving us the output. Okay, we will format the output and all a bit later when we actually try to automate to query multiple tables from the underlying database. So now if I have to get if I have to run this query against all the tables which are part of a file, I have to issue such scoop command, one for each table. Okay, yeah, any question? So first let me create a file which will list the tables. So I'm creating a list of tables without any extension, just saying list of tables. And I will give one table name at a time. There are 6 tables in the database. I'm giving all the 6 tables here. The tables are orders, order items, categories, departments, products, and customers. Okay, so there are 6 tables, and we will be querying all these tables to get the count, which means that we have to give one scoop eval command for each table. As it is a repetitive task, we should know how to develop the shell script where it will read this file, iterate through one table at a time, and issue the query. Okay. So I came out of this, and I'm going to scoop eval.sh. So in this case, one thing you need to understand is, even while submitting this scoop eval command, if I have to submit the same command in some other environment, which connects to a different database with the same table name, the JDBC URL will be different. Instead of ms.itversity.com, it could be something else. The database name will be different. The username will be different and password will be different, right? So if you really understand the development lifecycle in an enterprise, you will have a development environment, you will have a testing environment, you will have a production environment. And when you try to do certain things, certain type of these things in development, you will connect to a development database server. If you try to query from a test environment, you will connect to a test database server. If you deploy it in production, and if you try to query from production, you will be connecting to production server. Okay. So depending upon the environment, the details of this JDBC URL, username, and password will change along with the database name. And we should not replace after deploying it in test environment or production environment, because code changes are very sensible. If you make any code changes, it has to go through testing cycle, it has to go through deployment cycle, and then you have to deploy in production, and then you have to use it. So after deploying in production, you should not make any changes. But if you hard code, it will force you to make the changes, which means you are running some code which is never tested. And if you made a typo when giving this information in production, then your code will not work. So making code changes beyond development environment is not permitted. It's very sensitive. Okay. For that reason, all this information, either we need to pass it as argument, or we have to externalize into a properties file, and we have to read the properties file, and we have to pass this as input to this command. So first, let us see how we can actually pass the database server name, database name, username, and password as arguments. Okay. So in this case, this is the host on which database is running. This is the database name. RetailDB is the database name. And then this is user, this is password. So there are 4 variables which might change when we get into different environments. Okay. So if we have to pass these as arguments, we can read them as $1, $2, $3, $4. Okay. So we can actually replace as $1. So the first one has to be our server name where database is running, and then $2, where we'll be passing the database name. This has to be 1. And then $3, and then $4. But this is not a very good practice of directly using the index like this, because if you are using functions to modularize your code, you will not be passing in the same order all the time. You might be passing only few of them sometimes. You might be passing more arguments. So it can be very confusing. For that reason, whatever we pass from external from the external console while invoking this program, first we will create readable names to them. Okay. So in this case, let me create readable names instead of using like this. You can use it like this also. It will work functionally. But as you extend this program, if you create multiple functions, it can be confusing. To avoid that confusion, it is better to give readable names and use those things across multiple programs or multiple functions. Okay. One more advantage of using variables instead of notation like $1, $2, $3, $4, etc. is in Linux, when you develop the functions, you don't need to pass everything as arguments. You can create global variables and you can start using that as part of the functions wherever you want to use them. Okay. So that being said, it seems there is a question. I'll get back to you in a moment. So let me say DB server equal to $1, DB name equal to $2, DB user equal to $3, and DB password equal to $4. So I have to replace these variables with the names. So DB server, DB name, DB user, DB password. Okay. And also I will hard code the table name also. DB table. For now, I'm just hard coding. Later, I will read the file and I will iterate through it. Okay. $5. So this program, as of now, will take 5 arguments, and then we can run the query using scoop eval to get the count. So I'm coming out of this, and then I can say scoop eval .sh. My first argument is the server on which database is running, which is nothing but ms.itversity.com. Second argument is database name, which is nothing but retail_db. Third argument is username, which is nothing but retail_user. Fourth argument is password, which is nothing but itversity. And the fifth argument is table name, which is nothing but orders. And hit enter. Now you see, it actually query the data. Now, what is the advantage of this? I can run in any environment by just passing the server name, database name, username, and password as arguments. And also I can run this query against any table now within a given database. So instead of orders, I can also say order items. You can see here, there are 172,198 records. Okay. So there seems to be few questions here. Let me take those things. Can we pass MySQL database as an argument because DB may vary? That's what I have done, I think. Vasu, I tried with SQL Server. So if you are, again, so in this case, don't mix up the things, okay? If you have to run with different types of database, then you have to change your JDBC URL. You need to make sure that the relevant jar files are available and all. You need to have some deeper understanding about Scoop. So don't mix up the things here. But to answer your question, yes, we can run against any database. It's all, and here we are not exploring Scoop. Here we are exploring shell script. So whatever we pass, if it resolves into correct details, it will work without any issues. Okay. So Kamlesh is correct. Every database have their connectors. So we need to have connector. We need to have relevant JDBC URL. The URL structure itself might change depending upon the database you are using, and those are considered to be a bit of Scoop concepts. Don't worry too much about those things at this time. They are a bit out of context. Here, just focus on the automation using shell scripting, and we are taking Scoop eval as an example. Okay. So now Even though we can pass these things as arguments, the best practice is by creating a properties file. Typically, we will create the properties file. There can be one properties file for dev environment, one properties file for test environment, one properties file for production environment, or there can be name with the same properties file in each of the environments, but with different contents, depending upon the corresponding environment. So it all depends upon the design, how your architect decided to process. If he give that flexibility to you, you can decide. The main purpose is you have to externalize these properties, and with minimum amount of effort, you should be able to read the properties and you should start using as part of your program. Instead of arguments, if you want to pass them as properties, first you have to create properties file. So vi, let's say db properties. After this, what I will do, I will read those four, the server, database name, username, and password as properties, and I will pass the table name as the argument. After this is done, okay. So here the properties are db server equal to ms.itversity.com. Again, how you want to save the properties is up to you. You can save like this: key equal to value pair, or key space value pair, whatever delimiter you want to use, you can use in between. Or you can also use a bit advanced file formats like JSON, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation, or YML. YAML, we call it as YAML files. So there are certain standards. Typically, each programming language, they use different type of approach. We can use XML also. The bottom line is to store the keys and the values in readable format. We have to use one standard for everything once we start creating the properties in a properties file like this. You should not create one with equal to and another as a JSON object and another with space as delimiter. That will not work. Okay. So now we can give db server equal to this one, db name equal to retail underscore db, db user equal to retail underscore user, and db password equal to itversity. Let me see if there are any questions. Yeah, so NN01 is the older one. We will be decommissioning NN01. You should use ms.itversity.com, not nn01.itversity.com. Okay. So also there is a question, are we covering these concepts in database fundamentals? So database fundamentals does not cover how to connect to the database. So as part of the database fundamentals, I will be covering normalization, running queries, creating tables, loading data into the tables, and evolution of databases. Those are the things which will be covered. So information related to connectors and all, I'll give brief overview about when we talk about scoop in detail. It will be covered as part of the scoop. And if you, one important thing which you should focus is JDBC programming, means connecting to the database and getting the data. I'll not be covering very extensively. I might give an example with Python and Scala a bit in detail, but in general, you should be very comfortable with JDBC programming. So you should be able to connect to the database and get the data. Yes, I will only touch upon few points with respect to normalization and dimensional modeling. I will touch both. Okay. So now we got these four properties, these four entries in a file. So now we have to open this scoop eval.sh. And we have to update these four properties: db server, db name, db user, db password, by reading the properties from the file. Okay. What is the properties file name? So this is where we will be covering how to iterate through the contents of a file and make certain use them as part of our program. So I am actually, what happened? I think internet got disconnected. Okay. Okay, that is fine. It is working. So for now, I'll be commenting the scoop command. I'll come back and uncomment this thing. So hash is comment in Linux shell scripting. And also I'll be commenting this one. Let me comment everything. Okay. Now I can cat. So we can read the contents of the file db.properties using cat command. And if you want to read uh, one line at a time, you can pipe it to a while loop like this, and then use this read and then give the variable name. So in each iteration, the variable will have one particular line. So if I say while read line like this, and then this is the syntax for the while loop, while a particular condition do and done. For if, it's if fi to complete the scope of if. With while, it is done. Once you say done, the looping is done. So whatever logic is given here will be executed in a loop. Okay. And then you can say if dollar line first, let me just print whatever is there in the line. So we'll test at after each and every change we make. Okay. Let us see whether it will print the each and every line or not. So scoop eval.sh and hit enter. You can see it is printing each and every line, right? Now I can say let me see. I can say key equal to, so we will be getting the first element as key and second element as value. Okay. So in this case, we can say cut. We can use cut to apply the delimiter, and our delimiter is equal to, okay, and f1. That is the key. Okay. And we want to apply that on each and every line. So I can say echo dollar line and pipe it to the cut command. I think we don't even need to do this. And now if I run this, okay, let me also print echo dollar key. We are trying to get the keys. Okay, command not found. Okay, what is the history grep cut? Yeah, hyphen d is the, okay, so echo db server equal to ms.itvarsity.com. Type cut -d equal to -f1. Here it is working. Okay, there is some issue in this. Yeah, I think what I can do is that is correct. We have to put this in. I think this will work. Yeah. So the entire thing we have to put it in backquote so that we can execute it as a command and assign the output to the variable. Similarly, if I want to get the value, I can say value here, and here we have to get the second one. Now I can develop the if logic. If dollar key equal to db server, then we have to say db server equal to dollar value fi, and then else if there should be a better way of doing this. We should there are APIs which will actually convert your key value pairs into variables directly. We don't need to write like this. That's where YML, JSON, and all those things comes into picture. We can always pass the key and we can retrieve the value, but we have to use relevant APIs for that. Okay. In this case, just to show raw approach of using shell scripting, I am demonstrating like this. There should be a better way of doing this. So if you use YML or JSON, you can read the contents of the properties file in one shot into a variable, and you can pass a key, and you should be able to get the value, corresponding value from it. Okay. So here, Alice dollar key equal to db name, then db name equal to dollar value. Like this, we have to have two more. So I say y to y to copy two lines, and then shift p to paste, and then I'm saying db user. Here also it should be db user, and then db password. Okay. So now we have set the environment, set the variables called db server, db name, db user, db password by reading from the properties file. As this is done, let me format my code a bit here so that it is a bit readable. It is always good to format your code so that it is readable for you at a later point in time. Okay. Now I can remove these four. Table name is only the argument which I am passing. So I said $1. And then here there is no need to change anything. Okay. And then save it and then run this scoop-eval.sh. Okay, missing argument for option username. So let me see. So in this case, I have to go to db.properties, db user, yes. So now someone have asked me about sh minus x, right? So to troubleshoot where it is failing, I can say sh hyphen x, and then I can say scoop eval.sh, and then, okay, pass the table name. So earlier I didn't pass the table name. So let us see what is going on. Sorry. Scoop eval.sh and hit enter. Now you see, so DB password is ITversity, DB user is retail user. So it is actually showing what it have done. Okay. So everything is looks good. DB looking good. DB name is retail DB, and DB server is ms.itversity.com. So it actually showing in the format of tree how it is executing internally. So first it cat db.properties, and then in a loop it started reading one line at a time. So first it got db server, which is nothing but db server equal to ms.itversity.com. Then it applied the logic to extract the key and value, and then assign it to a variable. Everything you should be able to interpret. The main purpose of sh minus x is to debug your code. So the reason why it might be failing is, uh, okay, you can see here, everything is passing as empty strings. There is no MySQL, there is no username, there is no password, nothing is passed properly. That's why it was failing. Okay, so now let me troubleshoot this. Okay, so let me pass the table name here. Okay, so the reason why it is setting these values to null is these are not globally declared. In this case, we are declaring within the while loop. Because of the scope mismatch, it is after while loop is done, everything is reset to null. Okay, to make them accessible to everywhere, I think if I define empty variables in the beginning, let me try this. DB server equal to null, DB name equal to null, DB user equal to null, and DB password equal to null. And let us see what happens. It is giving the same thing. So one another way of fixing this issue is we can export okay, something is wrong. DB server equal to Just give me a minute. Let me troubleshoot. No, I don't think set will work. No, no, we cannot try directly like this. The purpose, the idea is to read from external properties file and use them as part of the program. The issue is it is not being scoped properly. That could be the reason. Just give me a moment. Let me see. Echo DB server value DB server equal to ms.itversity.com. Yeah, DB name value DB name equal to retail underscore DB. Let me see here. Okay, it is not even preserving until if condition is done. It could not be the case. I know what is the problem here. It has to be dollar. Okay, so after while loop, it is not preserving it. So let me see what needs to be done here. Uh, Shell script, variables, null after while loop. Yeah. So this is the exact issue what we are running into. The while loop is executed in a subshell, so any changes you do to the variable will not be available once the subshell exists. Instead, you can use a here string to rewrite the while loop to be in the main shell process. Okay. 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 I think we have to use this notation. So this is the alternative way of reading the contents of a file. Let us try this. Instead of saying this, we have to say like this, cat db dot properties. Now let us try running this program. Okay, it does not work. Okay. Okay. Lines equal to cat db dot properties. I will explain once it works. And now it is giving a different error. Okay. Now everything is working except for the first one, which is the server name. So you can see that the username came, password came, and table we pass it as argument, so there is no issue. Database name is also coming. Only thing that is not working is the server name. So let me see why server name is not working here. Okay. DB server equal to cat db dot properties, db server equal to ms.itversity.com, echo minus c db server equal to ms.itversity.com, value equal to ms.itversity.com. So for some reason, this value is not coming. Let me see where the issue is. No, it is not related to port number. Yeah, let me echo dollar DB server here. I'm just checking if there is anything missing. And then let me run scoop eval sh-x scoop eval dot sh orders. Yeah, it is printing null, so it is not actually getting that value. Probably what I can do is vi db.properties, and let me give a empty line. What is that?
Is it because of the dots in one?
Where are the dots?
ms.itust dots. Maybe
No, that is not the reason. That is not the reason. I think it is the behavior of, now let me explain. It is working now. What I have done is, in db.properties, I entered a empty line in the beginning. Okay, for the first line, there seems to be something which I do not understand yet. Okay, because earlier everything else is working fine except for the first one. So there seems to be some issue with respect to the first line. That's why I just created empty line and it started working. Okay, so now let me walk you through the program. Thank you for being patient. So first I have created a variable called lines by running cat db.properties. So lines will have all the lines in our properties file. And as that explanation is provided, the while loop typically runs in a subshell. As it is running in a subshell, whatever is set in the while loop is not reflected in our main program. The workaround for that is you have to pass input to the while loop using this notation. Okay. So in this case, I echoed the lines. Lines is nothing but a variable which I have created by catting from db.properties. I passed this into this while loop and then I set everything. And then we have executed this scoop eval command. That being said, let us put it in a function. So always you have to modularize your code. You should not just keep on adding like this. So the function name which I will be giving here is function read or set properties. Set properties. And again, I'm indenting. Indenting is very, very important so that it is readable to you. If you do not do this, after a while, code will become unmanageable. Okay. So this is the function. So first we'll be calling set properties function. And there are no arguments to this, and we can just pass it like this. And then rest of the code we are executing. So we have finished one part of it where we have read the properties file. Which passing part I didn't get you? Can you elaborate, Jitendra, what you were asking for? Are you talking about this one? Okay, let me run this while he come back with the question. Now I am running once again, and it works fine. I just modularized the code a bit. I didn't do anything fancy here. Okay. Yeah. So that's what it's just a syntax. You need to remember that to a while loop, you can pass input in multiple ways. One way is by saying cat read the content from the file and then pipe it to while read line and then loop through the data. That is one way of doing it. But the way it will work, if you do that way, is it will create a subshell. The while loop will be executing in a subshell. As it will be executing in a subshell, it will create a new session altogether. As it creates a new session, whatever you are setting in that session will not be reflected in your main program. It will run in its in an isolated fashion. To overcome that, to run the while loop also in the same shell, the syntax is you can pass whatever output is by giving the respective command here, and then say triple angular bracket, the less than symbol, and it will actually pass the contents of this dollar lines to the while loop, and the while loop will be running in the same session. Okay, that way you can see the values that are set in the while loop in the main program. It's just a syntax. Okay, so you have to practice these things just to get used to it. Sometimes when it comes to syntax, you just have to memorize. There can be proper logic which we can understand. In some cases, we might not able to understand the logic. In that case, we just have to memorize, or we should be capable of exploring as and when it is required and use them. Okay. That being said, now we have to iterate through tables, and we have to execute this scoop command also, right? Because I have already given 6 tables, and I want to pass those 6 tables to this, and I want to execute these queries in while loop, and also I have to format the data. First, let us see how we can actually uh, execute queries against all the 6 tables. So the tables are in list of tables, right? List of tables is the file which have the table names. And then while read line, I can say do, just to be so we don't need to create a variable here, as we already have the variable name called db table. I'm going to use it because it is also readable. So going forward, we'll not be passing even the table name as argument. We'll be reading from the file. And also let us do the indentation here. And then done. Okay. Now we are just reading the contents from the file called list of tables. And then we are iterating through it, and we are submitting the scoop command. Let us see if it works. Now we don't need to give any argument, just we have to run like this. Okay. Because I didn't set the path to point to this location, it said command not found. The solution is to say dot slash, because we are in the same directory. Now you can see data is coming for each and every table. Okay. Now we need to format this output. Before getting into that, let me see. There seems to be a question. Yeah, that's what we have done in the similar fashion. It's up to you whether you want to do it this way or this way. In both ways, it will work. But in this way, it will create a sub shell for when the while loop executes. But we are not passing anything from that while loop into the main program. That's why it is working without any issues. Okay. But in the previous case, we are passing the values to our variables from the while loop. That's why we have to pass it like this. So in this while loop, you can do either way, either the way you have done previously or this way. But for the previous purpose, you have to done that way only. You cannot use this whatever way we have done here. Okay. So that being said, now let us format the output a bit. So again, when we see the so here also I'm modularizing. I am going to create a function for this function get count for all tables. That is the function name. Okay. And to just give you the value of what I'm explaining right now, using this approach, I have built a solution in one of the projects. And at the time, the billing rate was whatever client was paying for my company was around $180 per hour. Okay, so it's very, very valuable, and you can come up with solutions like this. Again, it all depends upon your experience and all those things. You will not be getting $185 per hour just by exploring this, but whatever I am explaining is very, very valuable. I just build a complete solution using this approach in 3 months, and I paid, means my company got paid for almost a year. After 3 months, I hardly did any work. I just supported that application. Okay, so it's a very, very valuable thing what I'm explaining. So just make sure you understand and um, uh, be build the capability to build solutions like this. If you learn shell scripting, you can automate so many things, and your productivity will be improving significantly. That being said, shell scripting is not very easy, and it will take time for you to get expertise. I'm just sharing my experience here more than just teaching with some random examples. Okay. So now let me, so as I have made the changes of creating a function, I'm just running the program once again to see I'm getting the results, and then we'll take it from there. Yes, there is global versus local variable concept, and that's where that while loop behavior is a bit weird, especially when we do it in while loop. More than global and local, it is based upon whether it is running in the current shell or a separate shell. As long as it is running in the current shell, there shouldn't be any issues. Okay. That being said, now we have to format this code. If you look at this, you are getting information like this. And even though it is printing onto the console, this information is coming as standard error. What is the code for standard error? 2. So if I redirect these logs to a separate file or to discard it by redirecting to dev null, we will not be seeing this information anymore. Okay. So first, let us eliminate those unnecessary logs because we are not interested. So as part of the scoop command itself, whatever standard error we are getting, I just want to redirect to dev null. Okay. And now if I run this code, still it is showing. No, it actually reduced some information. So you don't see these things. It only shows this warning and this accumulo home. Other logs are eliminated. Logs are not coming here. Wherever there is timestamp and other information, they are nothing but logs. So we have eliminated those logs by just redirecting whatever standard error we are getting as part of the scoop command to dev null. Okay. Now I need to only focus on this part and get it. Rest of the things I can discard. Okay. So what I can do, I can use regular expression. So if there is a content which contains only numerics between pipes along numerics or spaces between the pipes, I only need that. I don't need anything else. Right? So that's the only thing which we are interested in. It should have space and numbers. Beyond that, it shouldn't have anything. Okay. So the way you should test it is, let's copy this one part into a file, bi testing. Instead of directly modifying the code, first let us come up with the logic which can be used as part of our solution, and then we can use that at a later point in time. We also have these two lines also, so we need to include this also as part of the testing. Okay, so I can say grep. We can use grep. It has to have pipe, and then let me use grep hyphen e. It has to have pipe in the beginning and pipe at the end. So we are giving that information here, and then we have to say either 0 to 9 or space. There should be at least one or more of them. Okay. Actually, it is end space. So we have to say 0 to 9 plus, and then space plus. Let us see if it works. Testing. Yeah. So it gave only this part. So it is only getting that information. It is not getting anything else, right? And once you are done with this, okay, even though it is printing everything, it is only highlighting this. It is not highlighting that. I think it is only filtering this one. Let me see then why it is displaying these things. It should not display. Let me write it to a file. No, this is not working. Okay. It has highlighted only this. Then why it is getting everything? Okay. I think I have to escape this. Let me see if I can use SCD hyphen E. No. Okay, I can do this. It is showing only, it is highlighting only this one, but it is printing everything. Okay, let me see. Two. Okay, let me check this. Grep. Dealing with grep for pattern between So what we can do is we can actually say grep pipe and then say testing. We only got the lines which have pipe in them, and then we can say grep hyphen v. So I'm using alternative solution instead of regular expression. I am doing a bit in a raw manner. I will come up with regular expression at a later point in time. So I don't want to have the line which have count in them. So we got this 1, 2, 4, 3, 5. Now uh, I can say cut d space and then field 2, and we got 1, 2, 4, 3, 5. Okay, we got the number. So I can apply this logic on the output which we are getting from scoop. Okay, so I can say vi scoop eval.sh. Now I can pipe to grep command. Okay, and I want to get only those things where there is a pipe in the beginning. So I can say like this. Once that is done, I don't want the one which have count. So I have eliminated the count. Then I have applied the cut with space as delimiter, and I try to get second field. It will give us the count for each and every table. So let us run this and validate that we are getting count. So we got only the count. Now I have to prefix the table name also to this. Then only it will make sense. Otherwise, we don't know for which table we are getting this data, right? So what I can do, I can open this up, and then I can assign this to a variable called count equal to. We have to put this in backquote, right? I am again line breaking here. And then we are placing this in backquote. Now the count is the variable which will contain count of each table after each iteration. Now I can say echo $db table, and then I want to give colon as delimiter, and then I want to print count. Okay, now save it and run it. Okay, so like this you should come up with the solution. Now we have written a simple shell script which actually query the data from the tables using scoop eval. We will improvise on this once we actually go through the scoop and try to come up with a bit more complex example. Okay, that being said, logging is very important. Whenever we run these applications, we have to log the details to the log file. That program execution is started, program execution is completed. Whenever we are invoking a function, we have to log how we are invoking that function. So in this case, we are invoking two functions, get properties and get count for all tables. If there are any arguments, we should pass the values of those arguments also. That will help us troubleshooting the issues easily. So logging is very, very important when you create these applications. I'm not going to cover those details at this time, but you should know. Also, if you want to check whether these files exist or not, we can do that check also. And if there doesn't exist, you can just exit by redirecting the message to log file saying that file does not exist. So all those things has to be logged so that the operations team can troubleshoot the issues once the code is deployed in production. As a developer, you will not be troubleshooting the code in production or troubleshooting the issues in production. There will be something called level 1 support. Those are the guys who have to look into these issues and have to rise to the appropriate teams. As a developer, it is your responsibility to facilitate the operations guys to troubleshoot and identify the issues. Once the issues are identified, if it is a bug in the code, they will raise a defect to the development team. If it is a data issue, they will directly work with the teams who are providing the data to them. For that purpose, logging is very, very important. We will see that at a later point in time, or you can explore by yourself. Okay, so that being said, immediately after this class, once the video is recorded, I will put it in kaizen.itversity.com along with the code so that you will have it for your reference. So just give me 1 hour or 2 hours time, or probably for day to day, and by tomorrow it will be ready for you. Okay, at least the video and the files and then the code. All three will be available for you. Any questions here? So from tomorrow, we'll be starting with another very important foundation module, which is database essentials. As I have explained earlier, we will be touch basing normalization, and then we will get into details with respect to DDL, DML, and SQL. I will also introduce you to MongoDB just to give idea about what it is. And also I will explain the evolution of the databases. CCA 131. What is that certification? Is it admin certification or database analyst? Analyst certification. Let me check what is CCA 131. Yeah. So definitely we'll come up with content with respect to Hadoop administrations, but we have a lot of backlog and we have some commitments which we need to take care. Once they are done, definitely we will start coming up with content on Hadoop administration also. We have the material ready. There is some material already in YouTube channel, but we will come up with much more reliable and well-documented content very soon on Kaizen with respect to all the administration certification courses as well. Any other question? Or if we have any outstanding issues which have raised in past few days, and if we could not help you in resolving those issues, those also can be raised now because there is more time, at least 5 to 10 minutes time I can take questions. So let me know if you have any. While you are coming up with the questions, those who are on YouTube, thank you very much for joining the session. Again, this is just to introduce you to how our classes go, so that in future, if you are interested, you can sign up for our courses. You can, to get information about our courses, you can follow us on LinkedIn or any other social networking platform, which is ITversity. You can get the details by searching for ITversity, and we will take it from there. Also, those who are on LinkedIn, you can send email to training@itversity.com if you want to be part of our mailing list, and we will send you the details about our courses whenever we run them. So how to remove value from path? Don't do that. I will explain, but never ever try to remove anything from the path. Okay, so you can get the details about path by saying echo $path. You will get whatever is there in the path now. If you want to reset the path to a null value, you just say path equal to this, And if I run any command, it says no such file or directory because it cannot find where these are. Okay. So don't do that. If you want to fix it, for example, let's say uh, now I'm setting up the path to the old value. Okay. Now if I run ls-ltl, it will work. Let's say you want to remove this one, home training bin. Okay. You just have to copy whatever you need and then say export path equal to that whatever is the remaining string, and then everything else will work except those which is removed from. So you just have to identify what all needs to be there in the path, and you just have to point your path to that string. That's it. Is it clear, Prudvi? Or if your question is something different, let me know. I will try to solve it. So 2 more minutes. If you have any questions, let me know. I will wait for 15 seconds. If it is a long question, just say that you are 1 minute or whatever it is, and then I will wait. Otherwise, we'll wrap up in 10 seconds. Yes, I will be sharing the script in Kaizen, our LMS, very soon. Once the video is recorded, I will save it. Yeah, so I think, Prudvi, you have raised this issue on Ubuntu. We don't support Ubuntu. So when it comes to FACL, ACL, and all those things, they're all operating system specific. And also at the system level, you have to enable ACLs to be used. They are not available by default in each and every scenario. So you have to do some more groundwork about the things that are required for ACL. And also from the developer perspective, developers doesn't use ACLs that much. It's the administrators who actually try to give you controlled access using ACL. That being said, why I have covered ACL is if you run into this issue, not with a set FACL, if you are expecting certain behavior with respect to permissions on particular files, and if it is expecting in completely different manner, then you should have ACL also in your mind to troubleshoot the issue. So that's why I have covered ACL. It's primarily an administrator tool. So Kumar is asking what kind of logging techniques industry is using in data engineering. So I same as regular application development. Sometimes, just give me a moment, okay? Yeah. Sometimes what will happen is we might not log into the typical log files the way we do in Java. Rather, we might log in certain information into log tables in the database also. In ETL, when we use tools like Informatica, Ab Initio, DataStage, etc., we don't log into log files, especially data-related things. We typically log into log tables so that we can query the log tables and identify the issues easily. So it's all up to the design in the company you are working. As part of the data engineering, logs might be maintained in files. Some companies might maintain logs in tables. Some might design a hybrid solution. Some things might be in files, some things in tables. You should know where the logging is happening, and you have to troubleshoot the issues accordingly. So Yara have asked me whether JDBC connectors concepts are covered in Udemy. So JDBC connectors are not that important with respect to CCA 175 certification, because as part of the CCA 175 curriculum, they told MySQL to be used, and the relevance of MySQL is only with respect to scoop, and that is covered as part of CCA 175 course. To connect to a database using JDBC connectors, it all depends upon the underlying programming language, syntax, and semantics. So just try to use JDBC programming for querying tables, whether using Python or Scala or Spark JDBC, and you are good to go. Okay, there is nothing. So if you want to know the concepts behind JDBC connectors, then you have to read through the official documentation of JDBC. There are 4 types of connectors: first type, second type, third type, fourth type. First is, I guess, ODBC, and then there are different types. And fourth type is the I think the lightweight connector. So you need to understand those concepts. But typically, with respect to data engineering, no one will get to that level even in interviews. You don't need to know all these 4 types of connectors and all those things. The main thing what you should know is how to connect to the database by using Scoop or Spark JDBC, and those things will be covered as part of the course. As part of the CCA 175, we have covered Scoop connecting to the database using JDBC connector. Is it clear, Yara? Or do you have more questions on that? Okay, cool. Okay, I can take few more questions. Again, I'll give 15 seconds time. If I do not get any question, I'll wrap up for today. If it is long question, just say 1 minute or whatever it is, and I'll wait. 10 more seconds. 5 more seconds. Okay. Prudvi is asking what all databases are we covering? We'll be covering Oracle. So primarily SQL will be taught on Oracle, and then I will cover a bit on MongoDB. So if you know SQL and Oracle, then you so in this case you don't need to know database in depth. You are user to the databases. If you know SQL, that means you can use any database. It can be Oracle, it can be SQL Server, it can be MySQL, it can be Postgres, it can be Redshift. Whatever database that follows standard ASCII, you will be able to use it. Okay, so we'll be covering RDBMS using Oracle as an example, which can be applied on most of the RDBMSs. And I will just introduce you to MongoDB. I will just run some queries on MongoDB and give you the feel of it so that you understand a bit about NoSQL. We will not be getting into too many details. Vasu, JSON will be covered in multiple places. We'll be seeing JSON quite extensively when we get into Spark. With Mongo, yes, it uses JSON. I will just introduce you to JSON, and we will see quite a few examples. JSON is very simple. There is nothing much to struggle with JSON. It's very, very straightforward. To answer your question, yes, we'll be covering. Okay. That being said, Shiva is asking, is MongoDB in lab for practice? MongoDB is very lightweight database. You can set up on your environment also. We might come up with MongoDB very soon in the lab. Okay. So don't worry whether MongoDB exists in the lab or not. It doesn't matter. It's very lightweight database you can have on your PC, and you should be able to run. And also there are some open source free MongoDB databases up to an extent, and you can start leveraging that also. Okay. Okay then. Thank you, and catch up with you tomorrow. Bye.